Mr. Jack Sobel, all I have to say is shoot. Shoot, shoot, shoot. That is a little bit of an inside joke. We just got done talking to Jeremiah Love after Notre Dame's 66-7 victory over Purdue here at Ross-Ade Stadium in West Lafayette, Indiana. Love likes to say shoot, okay? He likes to say shoot, but after this, I don't blame him because I didn't expect that. We both picked Notre Dame to win this game, and despite all odds, despite just what happened in Week 2 against Northern Illinois, we thought that some semblance of who Notre Dame might actually be would show up here today against an inferior Purdue team.
Yes.
Notre Dame was favored to win this football game. But, Jack, how did it get that ugly? How did Notre Dame just give Purdue its worst defeat by scoring margin of all time? Purdue's never lost by 59 points before.
Well, when we say inferior Purdue team, we should also clarify inferior to NIU. Yeah. I think it is pretty clear. That's over fair. The last two games. I mean, they were picked 18th in the Big Ten for a reason. Out of 18 teams in the Big Ten, but
that's too many teams in the Big Ten.
Way too many teams in the Big Ten. This was the Notre Dame team that we thought they were going into the season, and we thought they were coming out of Texas A&M. They clearly prepared well all week. Riley Leonard, we just talked about after the game, was pretty much who he was at Duke. I mean, he was running tremendously, over 100 rushing yards. I don't have the stats pulled up, but it was over 100. 34-yard touchdown, kind of dancing down the left sideline, breaking some tackles, hit some of the short throws, still some to work on with timing, with the deep stuff. But he had a good game. He had a much-needed day today for Riley Leonard, and the defense was tremendous. The defense attacked. The defense played. I think the phrase Marcus Freeman used last week was the defense played behind the line of scrimmage in the backfield. They were great. No real flaws from today's game that I can think of, and it's a very, very good day for the Irish.
Let's stick on Riley Leonard because obviously he was the topic of conversation coming into this football game for a variety of reasons. Yeah. Chiefly, his level of play, poor performance against NIU, poor performances throwing the football in back-to-back games to start the season. Today, like you said, we didn't see a whole lot from Riley Leonard in terms of better passing performance. He was more or less the same guy. Couldn't really push that football downfield. We saw a little bit more of that when Steve Angeli came into the ball game and got the ball downfield to Jaden Harrison. But Leonard is who he is as a passer. Like you said, that's kind of who he was at Duke. Marcus Freeman said it in the postgame. He can give you some of those short throws. I thought Riley Leonard was fantastic on some third and shorter than they've had previously against Texas A&M and NIU. 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, he was able to hit the out route and move the chains and keep Notre Dame on the football field. And when he kept Notre Dame on the football field, holy moly, did he make some plays as a runner in this football game. 3 touchdowns. He's the first player since Lamar Jackson in 2016 to have 100 rushing yards, 100 passing yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns in a first half of football in college football. Lamar Jackson won the Heisman Trophy that year, by the way. Riley Leonard's not going to win the Heisman Trophy, but it was that type of 30 minutes. Yeah. If Riley Leonard is going to give you that, even if the downfield passing wasn't there, you keep him as QB1?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think we saw today why Notre Dame is adamant about sticking with Riley Leonard as QB1. The vision for him was always he's going to provide that running ability that gives the offense both the floor and the ceiling like we saw today. They believe, as Mike Denbrock said before the season, we all remember the story he said about Jaden Daniels where there was a game early in Daniels' career, a couple games where he wasn't trusting his receivers as a passer, wasn't hitting some of his reads, his timing was a little off. He got better. They had 2 years with Jaden Daniels at LSU, only one with Riley Leonard, but that's the vision that he's going to get better as a passer over the course of the season. Now, obviously, they didn't expect him to be that bad against NIU or that it would cost him the game against NIU. It happened, but they're sticking with it because he provides them that ceiling late in the season if he can get that downfield passing improved because of his rushing ability that no other quarterback on this roster provides, and that's why he's going to stick with. That's why Notre Dame is going to stick with him as QB1 until if and when he has another game like NIU and they need to make a change.
Some things to compartmentalize here. Riley Leonard is a dual-threat quarterback. He likes to run the football. We all know that. We've seen his games at Duke. He started 21 times at Duke. He only had more rushing yards in a game at Duke one time. This is only the second time that Riley Leonard's ever had 100 rushing yards in a game. So part of me, Jack, I'm going to set you up with this. Is there worry that I'm not going to call that an anomaly because he's dang athletic and he can make those plays, but he's not going to have 3 touchdowns and 100 yards in every half. We saw that against NIU. When it's not there, what does Notre Dame have in Riley Leonard at quarterback?
It's a good question. I think they hope it's going to be there every game, and they hope his passing is going to improve. I mean, like it, don't like it, do whatever you want with it, but that's Notre Dame's stance. That's why they're going to stick with Riley Leonard as quarterback, and it's just, it's up to us to see if they're right going forward.
Important to note that Riley Leonard was not asked specifically about his health in the post-game press conference, but Jack, the more I think about it, he answered everything you need to know about his health by lowering his shoulder, taking hits, finishing runs, man. There's not a lot of quarterbacks in college football who score the first touchdown, it was kind of just like a 5-yard plunge he got in there. He's going to score that a lot. There are other quarterbacks who are going to score that. A couple runs that he scored on the other side of the field, Jack, not a lot of quarterbacks in college football are getting in the end zone on that. So, like you said, that's the upside that he provides. Steve Angeli does not provide that. Let's talk about Steve Angeli in this game, Jack, because he did throw 9 passes. He played pretty much the entire second half, save for a Kenny Minchey drive or two. And by the way, Kenny Minchey scored one of 6 Notre Dame rushing touchdowns in this game. So a lot going on the offensive side of the ball, but we need to key in on Steve Angeli because, like I said, coming into this game, there was a lot of discourse, and I fostered a little bit of it. We fostered some of it on this very YouTube channel. Who would you start? I guess you correctly said Riley Leonard in our Hey Horka video, but Steve Angeli also looked like a startable quarterback today. I think he was 6 of 9. Couldn't tell you how many passing yards he had, but he had 2 passing touchdowns. He looks the part, and he had a pretty elusive run as well. You can't break down too much of Steve Angeli. That's been the case his entire career because he's played so much in garbage time, and that's what this was today. But every time he's come into ball games, he's looked good, and he looked good again today.
Yeah, I think Steve Angeli proved why Notre Dame is comfortable with him as the backup right now. If you need to step in due to injury, or if you need to step in if Riley Leonard were to regress back to NIU form, I think they're perfectly comfortable with him being able to win these types of games. And he was sharp. He hit some accurate throws. He took a couple sacks that I didn't really think he should have, but that's nitpicking at this point. Angeli had a great game, but again, Riley's going to be the starter going forward.
And that's what Riley gives you as well, is the ability to avoid sacks. Steve Angeli does not have that up to the ability, to the standard that Riley Leonard can set in that regard. So yeah, Steve Angeli played well. Notre Dame's running backs played well. Let's finish the offensive side of the conversation with that. Jeremiah Love, we started this video with him. He started this game in a big way. 48-yard touchdown. Just like Riley Leonard scored some touchdowns today that a lot of other players aren't going to score in college football, I don't think a lot of other players in college football get the edge like Jeremiah Love did today. Again, Purdue's defense probably had a lot to do with that. They looked slow. They didn't get to him. But Love is fast. He scores the 48-yard touchdown. He looks good every single time he touches the ball in this football game. If Riley Leonard's not catalyst number one, it's probably Jeremiah Love in terms of what happened today in this game.
I mean, he's just a freak. It's so rare you see a guy his size. He's about 6 foot, 6'1", pretty well built guy. Like, he is electric with the ball in his hands. I mean, he's so explosive. You saw him get the edge and then shoot upfield like a rocket. It was incredible to watch. Jadarian Price with another ankle-breaking jump cut on Dylan Thieneman, on one of the best safeties in the country, number 31 on Purdue on that 70-yard run.
Knocked him over. He fell over. Yeah. It was equivalent of an ankle breaker in basketball.
No, it's just one of those nothing is going right now plays for Purdue. But when we talk about
that
the
made
running
it
backs,
42-0 42-0.
Yeah, 42. Yeah. When we talk about the running backs, we got to talk about the offensive line, because the offensive line against the Purdue defense that we knew going in wasn't very good. But the offensive line played really well. They did suffer a couple injuries. Billy Strouth had what looked like a foot or ankle injury. We saw him in a boot and crutches on that right foot, I want to say. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was right foot. We saw him on a boot and crutches shortly after he went to the locker room. Ashton Craig had a Purdue defender fall into his knee, had a little bit of a scary-looking knee injury, exited the game. Pat Coogan and Rocco Spindler, who were benched. They
lost their jobs.
Yeah, lost their jobs. They had a competition. The answer was neither Sam Pendleton. And they played really well coming into the game, and Freeman really, really, really proud of those guys.
Riley Leonard also giving those guys their props, and it was well-deserved, well-due. Well-due for the Notre Dame defensive line as well. They show up today in a way that they had not in the first 2 games of the season. Jack, I think they had 4 sacks today. I might be missing one. Only 1 sack in the first 2 games. Those guys were different. They were getting after the football, after the quarterback. It sucks for Jordan Botelho, who looks like he might be done for the season with a knee injury as well. But you had Boubacar Traore in there. causing havoc. Botello was causing havoc before he went down. What did you see from the Notre Dame defensive line today?
Well, I just want to touch on Botello because we just did the injuries on the offensive line. That really sucks for Jordan Botello, who honestly, like, between A&M, I don't think he was a problem against NIU, and in this game, he might have been the best of the bunch. Like, he was screaming off the edge, beating the left tackle for Purdue with ease, and Purdue felt good about its offensive line coming into the season. I mean, he was really, really good. Drew a holding penalty that messed up a Purdue drive too. We saw him after the game with a big brace on his right knee. It does not look good for him, and I mean, it's never good when a guy's carted off the field and surrounded by teammates saying, "We hope you're okay." I mean, he was really coming to his own. Really tough to see for the graduate student.
Yes, there's going to be a whole lot of Boubacar Traore at that Viper position going forward, I would imagine. Not a whole lot to talk about with the rest of the defense in a game that.
Well, let's keep going with the rest of the defensive line.
Okay, yeah. What do you got more to add? Go ahead.
Well, we said all week they got to take the criticism personally. I mean, Thomas Hammock for NIU told Matt Fortuna that, like, basically they saw on tape that they could manhandle this Notre Dame defensive line at the line of scrimmage. They need to take that personally, and they did. They were attacking the whole game from the jump. Just really, really impressive and much-needed performance for a unit we thought was going to be a strength going into the season.
Indiana man Jack Kaiser, obviously this was sort of an Indiana Bowl, if you will. I thought he kind of set a tone in that first half. He was flying around, getting to the football in the backfield. He was living by the football, and it was one of those games where if you look at it, and it looked like Hudson Card, Purdue's quarterback, was trying to do everything on his own, and a lot of that was because Notre Dame was just everywhere on defense. I mean, even when freshmen like Kennedy Urlacher came into the game into the second half, he was shot out of a cannon on multiple plays. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't have much to add on the defensive performance because it was so stout and it was as strong as the final score indicates. Anything other than the defensive line, Jack Kaiser, that you saw?
No, I mean, I think you nailed it. Like with Boubacar Traore had the pick six on the pressure from Riley Mills. You nailed it with Kaiser. He really, really set a tone for them. It's the Notre Dame defense that we thought they had, and we were starting to question that after NIU, but maybe not definitively because it is one game. But I think, and we'll transition to some big picture stuff here too. Like it's not, they're not all the way back right now, but it's a start into proving that the NIU game was not a fluke because they got outplayed, but an anomaly. Yep.
That's where I'm at. We only have 3 data points in this 2024 football season for Notre Dame. One of them is really, really bad, NIU. This one was really, really good. And if you factor in Texas A&M, the end result being really, really good, you'd like to think that this game is more so who Notre Dame is than the NIU game, but I think the jury is still out. They still have to prove this against another MAC team coming into Notre Dame Stadium this very week against Miami, Ohio. Louisville is a very good, competent football team that took down your football team last year. It's a week-by-week thing for Notre Dame, and I think Marcus Freeman said it best, and I was a little hard on him for some of his post-game comments and weak comments leading into this game. If he knew what was different about this performance than last week, he would catch it, bottle it up, and save it for every single game. The fact of the matter is he didn't know, and he's just got to figure out what it is and why this happened, and then maybe he can get to a point where that keeps happening the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think at this point, like, we can talk about the schedule again. We can do this and that. You start using the word playoff again. The bottom line is we don't know how this team's going to handle this success. Like they talked about it post game again. They did not handle success well after Texas A&M.
It was a big buzz phrase, if you will.
They read their own headlines. They thought they could walk in and beat NIU. That was obviously not the case. They need to approach every game like they approached this game, which was they had something to prove, taking some of the criticism personally, and just wiping the floor with a team that they're much better than.
So 25% of the way through this Notre Dame regular season.
Can't say it's been boring.
It has not been boring. It could be better. They could be 3-0. It could be worse. I think there were some people who were actually picking Purdue to win this football game, and they actually believe that the end result is a 59-point win for Notre Dame. Like I said on social media, I don't care who you're playing, where you're playing them. You beat a team by close to 60 points. You've done something well. Like you said, Jack, Notre Dame needs to build on that. Hopefully we did well in this video, and maybe we can build on that as well, because we're going to have plenty more coverage here at this YouTube channel. Definitely like this video, subscribe. Also go to blueandgold.com because we're going to have plenty of written content there for you guys to digest from this game. And then obviously leading into next week at Miami, Ohio. So that's Jack Sobel. I'm Tyler Horka, and we are Blue and Gold Illustrated.